That I'm racist? Well, that's very funny. I can't be racist by definition. Look that up. Look that up in the white folks dictionary. How can I be racist? I've never told anyone where to live. I've never told anyone what kind of jobs to have. I've never kept anyone from going to a school, or out of a restaurant, or drinking from a fountain. I've never lynched anybody. So how can I be racist? How can I be racist? By definition, I can't.
Coming at you live once again. The mic is live, ladies and gentlemen. I hope more people is going to join us once they get to notice that I'm out here. I'm pretty sure they will. I've been pumping this show up all week. This particular topic I wanted to come at you with. We got James Brown in the background. James Brown took the mic over today. Brother realized the mic was live, so he jumped out and taking it over. So once again, if the music is too loud and it's competing with my voice, let me know, and I'll turn it down. But that's who's in the background. The Godfather of Soul, James Brown. Okay, it's 2:01 right now. So I'm going to get into my little topic here. I want to welcome you guys to the podcast. Once again, you know that this podcast is only going to be here on Facebook temporarily. That we are going to be trying to step up our game. If you missed the live broadcast, if you know somebody that wanted to catch it and couldn't catch it, please let them know that every Tuesday, I repackage it, put some titles on it and some videos on it, and I put it up on my YouTube channel. Hey Samuel, how you doing? Great to see you up there joining us today. So let your friends know, let people know. I need the help, ladies and gentlemen, getting the word out. Let people know I'm doing this. Please, even if you catch the live feed, please go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe, because those are the numbers that are very important. The YouTube numbers of my subscription, not the likes or the dislikes. I need the numbers in the subscription so that when I go to the sponsors and try to get the other platform going, I can show them that, the audience is listening. I always tell you guys each week, what's this about? We're trying to get away from Facebook. We're having too many problems with the technology with Facebook. I don't know if it's technical difficulty or sabotage, but we won't go there. But we're trying to get away from Facebook. We want to develop a radio station and bring you guys good quality content 24 hours. We got some friends that we're going to be developing some shows with, and it's going to be on different subjects, different areas. A lot of it is going to be Afrocentric, but some of it is going to be, that's my speaker bugging out. But some of it is going to be dealing with other aspects of life and community. So just support us. We need your support. We need you guys to go over to the YouTube channel. Hit like, dislike, whatever you feel. But most of all, we need you to subscribe to the channel so we can get our numbers up. The numbers are climbing slowly, but, we just need a little bit more participation on the audience part. We want to send a shout out to the folks out in Texas. They've been dealing with that flood for the last week or so. Hey, my longtime friend and sensei, Maria James, has joined the conversation. We want to send a shout out to Maria and the things that they're doing out in the Jamaica, Queens area. If you're in the Queens area, please go by and support the Jamaica Art Center. Maria is a ballet teacher there. She's been teaching for years. Great dancer. Her and her husband also have the martial arts school there at the Jamaica Art Center. I think some of the classes there are free, but I know if you're going to take the martial art classes with Maria and her husband, that you got to pay for, because they only rent the space from Jamaica Art Center. They're not employed by Jamaica Art Center, but it's well worth it. I studied with them. I can't reveal how far I got. That's against the rules, but I studied with them for a number of years, and it helped me in many areas, not only in my fighting skills, but, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, because of karate movies, martial arts is about fighting. It's not. Martial arts is not about fighting. It is about control. It is about managing yourself and managing the world that you live in so that you can adapt and be able to change and control your surroundings. And studying with them gave me a certain level of control over myself and my life. And so I recommend, if you have any children having trouble in school or anything of that nature, I recommend you look them up out in Jamaica, Queens, Jamaica Art Center on Jamaica Avenue. Again, we want to again send a shout out to the folks out in Texas. I am, for one, am not recommending that you use the Red Cross. A lot of people use the Red Cross. I'm not recommending that at all, because a lot of the donations that the Red Cross receive do not go to the victims. It goes to the Red Cross organization. But there are a lot of organizations that are helping and doing things. You can look them up. I believe FEMA is looking for volunteers. I was tempted to go down, but I've got so many things that I'm working on here that I cannot get the leave of absence right now. But if you can get away from your jobs, I believe they're paying a certain amount of money for the time that you're away. Plus, they are putting people up. Your room and board is taken care of. So if you're interested in going down to Texas and helping those people out, which is going to take years, and you have some time, if you're retired or you just have some time off and you want to make a little extra bread, or just go down there to help, I suggest that you reach out to your local FEMA, federal emergency management and relief programs, and ask them to give you some information on how you can go down to Texas and help those people out. Also, our brother Tariq Nasheed, many of you might know him from the Hidden Colors series. He's also trying to organize some things, because one of the problems, and we're going to be discussing this in today's topic, one of the problems with these natural disasters and the relief efforts is that our people get left out more often than not. In fact, there were some stories coming out where certain communities were calling for help and people were just passing them by. Of course, people of color were the victims calling for help, and they were calling 911, and the operator was telling them stuff like, call Jesus to save you, and hanging up on them. So, a lot of times we've seen it in Katrina, we've seen it in a lot of these disasters, that our people will be left out a whole lot, and not trying to add, any division to this thing, because everybody needs help down there. But the reality is, battery, please charge. My speaker is bugging. My cord is broken on that, so that noise you hear is my speaker telling me to load my battery. But I don't know what's going on with this thing. But my point being, our brother Tariq Nasheed is aware of that situation in terms of how our people get left out often when it comes to the relief and the aid. So he's trying to organize things, and he's trying to get with our people down there that know the situations dealing with African Americans or our Nubian brothers and sisters that might need the help. And he's trying to organize with other entertainers and athletes to get the aid directly to the people that need it. So that's another avenue you might want to explore if you want to help the people in Texas. You can reach out to Brother Nasheed. He's on the web. He's got his contact information is there. You can call him if you want to make a donation or if you want to be a transport or anything. Just reach out to Brother Nasheed and see what direction he's going with the relief efforts in Texas. But again, our hearts and prayers are with all the people down there, and we hope that they're getting the help that they need. All right, today's topic that I wanted to talk to you about is American racism and its institutions. American racism and its institutions. All right, so we're going to chop up some game on that. And if you guys got anything to add, again, we're not on the platform that we want to be on. So anything you write in the comment section, anybody else that's on, they can see it. And we will definitely give you a shout out and talk about any questions or comments you might have regarding the topic today. And again, the topic today is American racism and its institutions. Now, looking at racism from the institutional standpoint, first of all, I think it's important to define what racism is, because a lot of people have a misconception as to what racism is, and they tend to accuse everybody of racism when that's not the case. Not everybody can be racist or practice racism. Okay, we can all be prejudiced. Okay. And we can all be bigoted. We have our prejudices and we are bigoted in certain ways, but not everyone can practice racism. And the reason why I say that is locked in the definition. And when you look at racism defined, it says discrimination or antagonism against someone or group of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Okay? Discrimination or antagonism against someone or a group of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Now, like I said, we can all be prejudiced. I think prejudice is something that we're born with. I think prejudice is a natural defense that we're all born with. That's one of the only defenses other than extreme cuteness and cuddliness that an infant has is their prejudice. Something strikes you wrong, something rubs you the wrong way. You're very discriminating against certain things. My old friend and singing partner, Russell Pointer, is out there. Hey, Russell, how you doing? So we all born with that, and we all walk with, should I walk into that group of people, or should I walk down that particular street, or do I want to be associated, have my name associated with a certain product or a certain outlook? Okay, so we're all born with certain prejudice, all right? But as far as being able to discriminate and intimidate, that's something that not everybody can do, okay? My cousin's out here, Catherine. How you doing, Catherine? Good to see you. Okay, not everybody has the power to discriminate or to intimidate. All right, that's why a lot of, for the sake of understanding, I'll use the word black, but I hate using that term because black is a color. It's not a nationality. As far as our nationality, we are Moors or Nubians. I prefer the term Moors, but a lot of black people have a problem with being called racist because we don't have the mechanism to practice racism. We don't have the social, economic, or political power to intimidate or discriminate against anyone. Okay, so it's very difficult to classify or quantify black people as being racist. because we just don't have the means to practice racism. We can't keep anyone out of our neighborhoods. All right, any and everybody can come into our neighborhoods at will. We can't keep anyone out of our schools or out of our churches. Okay, we can't keep anyone locked in because of our political power or our economic power. So we don't have the mechanisms to practice racism. And in order to be racist, you have to be able to practice racism, which black people don't. Again, we can be discriminating, we can be bigoted in certain areas, but as far as being racist, we don't have the power, again, to practice racism. So it's virtually impossible for black people to be racist. Racism in America. Okay, we look whenever you speak about racism in America. Normally, the mindset goes towards the relationship between white people and Moors or people of Nubian descent. Okay, when the truth of the matter is racism existed in America long before slavery. Okay, most of the attitudes and the relationships between blacks and whites in this country are rooted in the slave trade of the 1700s. Okay, but long before that, racism was practiced here in America. Okay, the foundations of racism in this country stemmed from Christopher Columbus. You know, everybody's up in arms about the statues from the Civil War, and they want to take them down. And they're talking about rewriting history and that sort of thing. But my thing is, you don't have to rewrite history in order to stop praising people that committed genocide. All right, you got statues, you got streets, you have buildings, you have communities named after these genocidal maniacs, and holidays named after them, and not even teaching the real history as to who they are and the role they played in the making of this country. Like I said, racism existed in this country long before slavery. And one of the first people that were in this country that were discriminated against, and racism and genocide was practiced against, was the Native American. Okay, who many historians will argue that they are the same people of Africa. They just crossed the land bridge in North America and came here and settled in the Americas, but they are still Moors. You know, they are still Nubian people. In fact, some would argue that they are the lost tribe of the Hebrew nation, the original Hebrew nation. But the point is that long before the slave trade ended and we were subject to the discrimination and the racism in this country, the first ones that were put under the whip of European genocide was the American Indian. So you have to understand that racism isn't something that just came about within the last couple of centuries. This is woven into the fabric of the American consciousness. The root of the American continent is that of racism. You know, my point was that, you know, we have all these statues up to Christopher Columbus. Our kids are being taught what a great man he was. He came over on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and he found America. You know, and later on, the Pilgrims came, and they landed on Plymouth Rock. But as Malcolm say, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And the truth of the matter is that these people are nobody to be praising. You know, they took the Bible in one hand, a cross in the other hand, and a gun behind their back, and came in and conquered just about everybody using those tactics. But yet, still in all, today they're being praised as if they're some great savior. They brought salvation. Let me tell you, Christopher Columbus, when he first came to America, he didn't come bearing gifts. He didn't come with a benevolent spirit. In fact, the Europeans thought that the Native Americans was some sort of savage that needed to be tamed. Christopher Columbus committed so much murder outright. Him and his crew committed outright murder, genocide. They raped and pillaged this land to no end. But yet we have statues and we have streets. The big square out in Manhattan, Columbus Circle, that's named after this murderer, this man that committed genocide on the indigenous people, stomped them into the ground, erased them from history, and now he's being lauded like he's some great savior and he brought civilization to the land. You know, when the truth of the matter is the Native Americans, any indigenous people to their regions were more civilized than any visitor that came in. And that's the truth of the matter. Okay? And then when you look further into the history, then you realize what role the enslavement of Africans or the Nubian played in the development of this country. You know, how deeply rooted racism is in the institutions of this country. Sansun, The Art of War. I've been telling you guys, get that book, The Art of War by Sansun. Get that book, read it with your children, dissect it, break it down, go over it. There's so many lessons in that book. But in that book, he speaks of spies and how spies are being used. And he says that the best spy is the spy that doesn't know that he is a spy. The double agent that doesn't know he's being used as a double agent. And so too it is with racism. The worst racist is the one that don't know they're being racist or don't know that they're being bigoted. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and we were in a discussion. He was talking about a vacation he went on, and he was talking about how he went to this place and they were doing dwarf tossing. You know, when they take little people and toss them against a wall or see how far they can go. And I was appalled. I looked at him like, dude, what are you talking about? And he was like, well, it's all right. They had helmets on. I mean, he totally missed the boat on how inhumane it was. You understand? But in his mind, it was okay that they had helmets on. All right, and that's how a lot of people speak about racism and they approach racism. You know, they don't even realize how inhumane, insensitive, and insulting that they're being. As long as one little quirk isn't there, you know. Oh, yeah, I said she looked beautiful for a black girl. You know, just because they use the word beautiful just outweighs the fact that you said for a black girl, as if she's a abnormality in terms of beauty in black culture. So it's like there are so many people out there, particularly, you know, white people, that don't understand the depth of their racism and how it's intertwined so deeply in their hearts and in their life that trying to have a conversation with them about it is difficult at best. Because again, the racism in this country didn't start with the African American, didn't start with slavery, all right? It started way before then, okay? And it has been perpetuated and grown so much so and changed and metamorphosized so much so a lot of people are so caught up in it that they don't even realize it. You know, when you look at how how Christopher Columbus murdered the Indians, you know, they took the Native Americans' land, basically robbed them of everything they owned, you know, usurped them, set up their establishments here in this country, and after that, they went on a rampage just about all over the world. You know, when you look at the slave trade of the 1700s, yes, there were slaves in Africa, and a lot of people bring that point up. Oh, there couldn't have been slavery if the Africans didn't participate. Yeah, they participated. You know, but even when you study warfare, before Shaka Zulu, there was no real murder in warfare. You know, most of the wars fought in Africa was by insult. It depended on how much you insulted your opponent. who won the battle. All right, it wasn't until Shaka Zulu came along that they actually started really killing each other and fighting on that level. But Africans never enslaved people to the point where they stripped them of their humanity. Chattel slavery is an American invention. To actually own a person to where they could never repay or get out of debt in terms of what they owed to those that they were enslaved to, that's an American invention. That's something that started here in the Americans, and it started because, once again, they felt that they were the superior race. And this is why white supremacy is on the rise today. And this is why it's so dangerous to have a president that won't acknowledge it for what it is, stand up against it, and for all intents and purposes, is a white supremacist himself. Because we saw what happened in Europe, and it kills me how all these Negropeans sit around talking about, oh, I ain't got time to worry about no neo-Nazi, or I ain't got no time to be worried about the KKK. Yeah, you don't have time until they're at your doorstep, because that's the same exact thing they said in Europe. We ain't got time to worry about no Nazis. And I could hear some Jews sitting around their dinner tables talking that same thing until they woke up one morning and their butts was being shipped away to Auschwitz or that other death camp out there. Okay? You never have time until it's on your doorstep, and then you gotta look at it for what it is. Okay? American racism is a science. It's an institution unto itself. Okay? And we have always been the test subject. No group in this country has been treated the way we've been treated. Okay? Even in the Native American, even though they were facing genocide and destruction, they still was able to hold on to certain parts of themselves, their religions, their culture, their art, their community. When Africans were brought to this country, when our ancestors of Kush, I hate using that word too, Africa. We're not Africans, all right. Africanus was a Roman general, and I refuse to go around using that term because we shouldn't be named after our conqueror, somebody that conquered some of our lands. We're not Africans. We're Nubians. We're Moors. Our land was called Kush. Okay, so when the descendants of Kush were brought here, they weren't allowed to hold on to any of their religion. They weren't allowed to hold on to any of their family structure. The family was broken apart. They were dehumanized. Their humanity was stripped from them. And they were basically left in a state of spiritual death. All right? There's no other group in this country, and there have been other groups, okay, that have been subject to American racism. You look in the 1940s, you look at what happened to the Japanese. They were put in internment camps. Okay, these are Japanese Americans, but still, they weren't stripped of their identities. A lot of them still knew who they were. They knew who their families were, their religions. All right, all that stuff wasn't beaten out of them with the whip and chains. Okay, you look at what happened to the Jews. Okay, and I say that in quotation marks because there's a big difference between a Jew and a Hebrew. All right, those people calling themselves Jews are not the Jews of the Bible. Let's get that straight, first of all. I'll only use as a point of reference the term Jews so that we'll be on the same page. Hey, Lawrence, how you doing? Thanks for joining. But don't get it twisted. The Hebrews of the Bible are people that are of Moorish or Kush descent. All right, they are blacker than black. They are black as night. All right, these Jews that you see in the Americas now and over there in Israel, they are not the descendants of Isaac and Jacob. Okay, we are. Those are our ancestors. Okay, these Jews came along much later. Okay, they were the nomads living on the borders of Russia and Germany, which is why, and that's a whole nother discussion, but Not to say that he was right for the mass murder that he committed, but Hitler treated those people a certain way because he was of the knowledge that these people were not the original Hebrews of the Bible, and he showed them no respect, primarily because he knew that they were trying to usurp our identity. But again, that's a whole nother topic for discussion. But, they arrived in the Americas about 300 years ago, and they were afforded a certain level of respect and dignity, but even they were discriminated against. Okay? That's right. That's right, Lance. You hit that on the head. The European Jews, they are not descendant from the Hebrews. But my point is that even they were discriminated against. Up into the 18th century, they weren't allowed to hold public office in certain states in America. So my point is that racism in this country is an institutionalized mechanism. All right, it's controlled socially, it's controlled economically, and it's controlled on a political level. And this is why Nubians, our people cannot be called racist because we don't have those mechanisms in place, to perpetuate our superiority or our perceived superiority over another race. That's just not possible. That's why the argument is posted that black folk cannot be racist. It's not a part of our being. And when you look at the indigenous people of color around the world, we were never that way. One of the reasons why we're in the predicament that we're in is because we were always welcoming. We always welcomed you into our societies. Very rarely did you hear or see a group of indigenous people that wasn't loving, that wasn't open and caring for those travelers. That was one of the problems. That was one of the laws of our various communities, is to treat travelers with respect and dignity. Samuel is in the chat room right now, enjoying the conversation. We have to solve tribalism. Can you expound on that a little bit, Samuel? When you say tribalism, do you mean among ourselves or on a global level? But and if he gets back to me on that, I'm going to keep moving on with the discussion. But now we're in this new level of fear and prejudice. And the new, for lack of a better term, but the new nigger now are the Mexicans and what we're looking at as Islamophobia. And I remember my brother Paul Mooney always coming up with some serious phrases. He cracks me up, and he always talking about people getting a nigga wake-up call. Well, right now, a lot of Arabs and Mexicans are getting a nigga wake-up call, okay, because, you see what our president is doing. You see how he's treating certain people, and a lot of people try to chalk it up to him just being political, and he's making political moves. Don't get it twisted, folks. Our president is a white supremacist, okay? Every time he speaks, I want you to notice that he makes this symbol, okay? This symbol is a symbol that means white power. The 3 fingers is a W, and the 2 fingers here coming down the arm is a P. So that means white power. So anytime, just keep a look at his right hand when he's speaking. He's always going like this. When he was in Texas, he did like this. At his rallies, he's doing this. And you can research this on the web, ladies and gentlemen. This is the new white power symbol that they use. All right? And he's constantly throwing up that symbol. Constantly. And he's making no effort to change it. Because as he's speaking, he's saying, we're against racism and any sort. But he's doing this saying, look, I got to say this, but underneath I'm saying white power. All right, that's basically what he's doing. All right, so keep an eye on that. You know, these little symbols that these neo-Nazis and the KKK have rolling, he's totally down with it. Now, a lot of people are afraid to call him out for what he is, and what he is a white supremacist. You know, and that's nothing new. You know, which is the point of my discussion today. Lawrence says the people who say anybody can be racist, usually white people, don't make the difference between racism and institutional racism. And any race can be racist, but here in America, only whites have the power to be racist. That's very true. And that's the thing. People don't make that distinction. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast. We don't have that power. We don't have the power to be discriminatory or to put people down or to stop people from moving to certain places or shopping certain places. Okay? This is why I really need you guys to get these numbers up for me. All right? So let your friends know so that I can get out. I got to get out of this medium, you know, because I have so much good feedback and I want people to be able to call in so that I can get you guys to feed in. Like, that was a great point Lawrence just made. So that's why I need those numbers up so I can get the sponsorship and change the medium, because I want to get away from Facebook altogether so that we can have a great podcast and have you guys call in and we can have a good dialogue. You know, I had some great dialogue on this topic already. And basically what I was trying to say, if you saw the meme that I put out regarding today's topic, you know, because what inspired it, I was listening to Brother Shannon Sharp on one of his shows, and he was talking about Colin Kaepernick and how we're all born equal, and that just, you know, I love Shannon. I'm a total fan of Shannon Sharp. The things that he say, you know, he hits it on the point. He don't shy away from it. He, you know, he lets people know. But I have a problem with and that's very true. A lot of white folk, Lawrence Road, a lot of white people honestly don't even know the difference. They don't see how they benefit from institutional racism. And I'm going to get back to that. Thanks, Lawrence, for bringing that up. But what I was saying about Shannon is, and that's I'm going to come back to what Lawrence said, because that's going to tie into what I'm about to say now. Again, I love that brother, and he doesn't shy away from the truth. My old friend Franz Paulin just joined us, my homie from the Channel Y days. France was the president of the video club back in the day, and this is where I developed this whole idea about the Micah's Live and developed the show back then in college. So what's up, France? How you doing? Hope the family's well. But when he started talking about how equal we were, and yeah, you know, a lot of times we say things and we repeat things to the point where we start believing that they're true. You know, something can be said over and over again, and it becomes a part of the lexicon and the cultural fabric, even though it's not true. You know, we start believing it's true, like this whole idea of Santa Claus and Christmas being about Jesus' birthday. But then when you do some research, you start to realize, you know, a lot of stuff we've been taught and we've been believing just isn't true. It's just that so many people say. Okay, Lawrence, I see you got to go, man. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for the points, my brother. All right, and that's one of the things, you know, I notice about this whole saying about, you know, we're all born equal. We're not all born equal. Like, where does that come from? You know, we're not born equal. On no level are we born equal. I don't, and this is not to say that everyone doesn't deserve human and I even hate saying that. But let me say it this way. This doesn't mean that I'm saying we shouldn't try to show everyone human decency and respect. But to say that we're all born equal, that's a fallacy. That's a fairy tale. That's a fantasy. Just like human rights and and I wrote this in the advertisement for today's podcast. You're not born equal to no one. No one owes you respect and dignity. You know, that just don't exist. This is why I had a problem with the civil rights movement when I came of age and started studying and seeing truth for myself instead of what was regurgitated to me by the masses. All right, the civil rights movement, fighting for equal rights was like trying to catch water with an open hand. Equal rights doesn't exist. Equality does not exist anywhere in nature, ladies and gentlemen. And humans are just as part of nature as anybody else. And like I said, as far as esoterics and building and sustaining a meaningful society, we should try and show everyone a certain amount of respect. Okay, Samuel got back, but hold that thought while I read what Samuel wrote. Black people have to get over our differences and unite on the simple fact that we are a race. Globally, it's killing us because we have a desire to be people who aren't us. Black people love racism. And that is, we say community, but don't really live near each other. And that, oh my goodness, thank you so much, Samuel. And that's part of what I'm talking about now, but that's going to talk to a bigger point that I want to make later. But again, we're not born equal to anybody. Hey, Noble, how you doing? Okay, we're not born equal in physical prowess, mental prowess, spiritual prowess, economically. You can preach that, oh, we're equal stuff, but, you have to look at the reality. Like I said, equality does not exist anywhere in nature. Now, in terms of, Noble asked the question, what is race? We're speaking in terms of culturally right now. Race, if you look at the dictionary definition, race has more than one meaning. And I really don't like that term race when it comes to human, because I believe that there's only one human race. But culturally, race can be defined as cultural differences between many certain groups of people. So when we're speaking of racism, Noble, we're speaking of racism as it applies to cultural differences. Okay, and getting back to my point, and the point that my brother just made, Samuel just made. First of all, we're not equal. We cannot be equal. That's why the civil rights movement was a fleeting movement, because it was fighting for something that could never be obtained. You can never get equal rights from anybody. Because let me give it to you this way. If there was such a thing as equal rights, then when we get arrested and go to jail, we'd all get the same type of lawyers. Okay? There would be a minimum of money that can be made. There would be a cap on the money that you can make. There would be political balance. All right, 20% of the masses would not have voted this orange nutcase into the White House if there was political equilibrium. Equilibrium or equality means that a balance, okay, and to be equal is to put a limit on human potential. So there's no such thing as equality. That's a misnomer that we got to get off of. What the civil rights movement was about unknowingly, And what we're fighting for in this time period, whether we know it or not, is not equality, but equity. There's a difference between equality and equity. Equality is everybody getting the same thing, and that can't exist. It's just impossible for everybody to get the same thing. But equity means that everybody gets what they need so that they can be on a good footing or in a position to live their full potential. And that's what a true society, a strong society, a healthy society is based on. And this is why our brother Colin Kaepernick and everybody else like him is so dangerous to the establishment, because they're not fighting for equality. They're not fighting for us to be treated equally, all right? They're fighting for us to be treated equitably. There's a big difference between equality and equitable, okay? And I got to give a shout out. Noble says, because law deals with nationality, you can't not accept equality under the Constitution or equity without being part of a nation. Very true. That's very true. But my point is, don't get caught up in this illusion as if that's something natural. You know, like this whole thing about my rights. I have God-given rights. God don't give men rights. I challenge anybody listening now or to go to a scholar and come at me later and show me anywhere in any of the holy writings where God gave a man rights. I got to look at my time. 2:45. Got 15 minutes. Look and find me anywhere where God gave a man rights. Okay? As you said, Noble, you can't expect equality or equity without being part of a nation. Okay? I'm sorry. I did, didn't I? Gotta stop. Get out that habit. But my point is, as you said, you can't expect these things unless you're part of a nation. And where does nations come from? Nations don't come from God. Nations come from men and women who put their minds together and build up economic, social, political, and military strength. All right? So all these rights and privileges that you have, they ain't got nothing to do with God. They got to do with the point of your gun. Okay? Who's got the bigger gun? And any time... and that's my point that I was making before, Noble. African America is not a nation. Black is not a nation. Africa is a continent. It's not a nation. You know, and this is what I mean. Things are being said so much. You're hearing it. It's being regurgitated so much to the point where it becomes true because it's in your ear so much, and we start listening to these terms and shooting these terms out, and when you really define them and look at what they mean, they have no meaning whatsoever in terms of what direction we need to go to deal with this thing, you know. And I got to give my sister a shout out, Lulu Santos, because we got into a deep discussion about this, you know. She coined the phrase cohesive independence, and I just had to bring that out, you know, cohesive independence, which speaks to the equity, you know, the cohesion and the equity that we have to have towards one another. You know, and this is why the Trumps and all of these other white supremacists have a problem with Colin Kaepernick and other people that call them out on their lack of equity to other people of the world, not just black people. Okay, because remember I said in the beginning, I'm a humanitarian first. I love my culture. I'll die for my culture, you know. But, you know, humanely, you know, what's going to sustain the society and what sustain this world, it has to be an equitable spirit, a charitable spirit to everyone. Samuel says the whole continent doesn't have one nation that is run one. Why can't a group of like-minded people come together and make a true nation? There's plenty of space. Very true, Samuel. And I think the problem with that, the problem that they can't is because we get caught up in these misnomers. You know, we start looking for these things that don't exist, like rights and equality. These things don't exist. You know, that's my point. And if we can get on the right conversation and start understanding the right terminology, you know, thought leads to word, and word leads to action. We're on the wrong thought, speaking the wrong words, taking the wrong road in terms of our action. Okay, Noble says indigenous rights. You're right, Noble, but I like to substitute that word rights with responsibility, because remember, rights can be taken with the point of a gun. Okay, but a responsibility is something that nature assigns to you. You cannot ever get away from your responsibility. A man can't get away from his responsibility to his family. You can run, but you can't hide. All right? You can go to court and jump up and down about your rights as a human being, this, that, and the other, but the responsibility you have to that woman, the responsibility you have to the children, the responsibility you have to your community, you can never get away from. And like I said, if you can go to any holy writing, the Bible, the Quran, the Shura, the Torah, the Talmud, any of them, and you will see that there's not a holy writing in the world that can show where a man ever got a right. Men were always given responsibilities. Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali brought us our nationality for equity to be possible. Obama signed the law. We all have to act. Very true, my brother. Very true, Noble. See, this is why, guys, please hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. This video is going to be up again on Tuesday, but let everybody know, because once I get off this platform, you guys can call in and we can have some very serious dialogue, you know. But I got to get out of here. It's 2:51. Before I go, I want to send a shout out to Ricky Sisk. You can look him up on Facebook. He has the page that we're boycotting the NFL. That boycott is still going. Thanks again, Noble. Great points. You guys added to the discussion in there. I love that. Please come back every Saturday. Let your friends know. And go over to, if you guys haven't done so already, I've been sending out blast requests, but go over to the boycott the NFL. We're still doing that. Okay. Shout out to our brother Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. He's a very great economic teacher. I know some people don't like his approach and all, but I like what the brother's doing. If you want to start a business, if you need some insight on how to do things like that, look up our brother Boyce Watkins. He's a great, great teacher, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Again, if you want to help in the Texas efforts, look up our brother Tariq Nasheed. He's the one that did the Hidden Colors series. He's trying to organize things and get help directly to our people. All right, and look out for his new movie, I think 1840, about the Haitian Revolution. He's coming out with another series. If you haven't picked up Hidden Colors, please pick up Hidden Colors. Dynamic piece of work. There's another one, Out of Darkness, by Sabir Bey. Pick those pieces up. I've been telling you guys about them for a while now. Okay, that's about my time, you know. But, you know, in closing, I'd just like to say, you know, get off of these misnomers, get off of these fairy tale principles, and let's start building our economic, political, and social strength so that when we do have to stand up for what's ours, when we do have to claim these rights and claim the equity that we're owed, we'll have a position to do that. You know, as my brothers were saying, we have to get past that tribalism, come together on a common cause, and realize that we are stronger together because this thing of racism is an institutionalized thing. It's in our economics, it's in our politics, it's in our real estate, and we see who's in the White House. We have a white supremacist running this country, and if we are going to survive this, I'm not saying get all caught up in what they're doing, because as you can see, they're imploding within themselves. But we do have to be aware of who we are and what it is we're trying to do for our future, for our culture, and our people. You know, because this is no joke. You know, anytime you have a president throwing up the white power signal and thinking nobody sees him and basically doing what he wants, however he wants, you know, that David Clark or whatever his name is, the sheriff, that traitor house nigga sheriff, he resigned suspiciously. Nobody know why, but I guarantee you he might pop up in the Trump administration. You know, and you know we speak of institutional racism, and we speak of you know, white people being racist, and that's the point I want to get back to. I got 5 more minutes, but it's even in us as well. Somebody posted a meme. And outside, it was a building with a bunch of young men hanging out in front. And it was like, well, if you got to go pick up a female and you walked up on this scene, what would you do? And so many people was talking about, I grabbed my gat. Hey, Ricky, I was just talking about you, my brother. I'm getting ready to leave, but nice of you to join me at the end. But this is Ricky, ladies and gentlemen. He started the website boycotting the NFL. So get over there. If you haven't joined that website yet, please do so. Again, I'm going to be sending out some more invitations. I've been doing it all week. I'm about exhausted all my friends list, but please join that movement. We got to support not only our brother Colin Kaepernick, but we got to support the movement and let the NFL know that they have a responsibility to the community that most of their talent and their money come from. So we're not only boycotting for Kaepernick to get a job, but we are boycotting because of the original reason why that brother took a knee, you know. But as I was saying, because I got to get out of here, in terms of the racism, how it's in us, you know, most people were saying on that meme how they'll go get their gun or they'd stop. They wouldn't go get the female. They'd call her and tell her to come down because they're not walking through all those people. And my thing is, oh, okay, that's all good, man. I'm only messing with you. But I'm glad you're here, though. But my thing is, when did we become so afraid of ourselves? You know, I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn. I ain't never been afraid to walk through a bunch of brothers and say, excuse me, I'm going up to see my family. Never had no problems, you know, but that just shows you how that racism, how we've been engineered, as Malcolm said, who taught you how to hate your hair, the complexion of your skin? You know, who taught you to hate yourself so much that you can't stand to be around each other? You know? It just hurt my heart, you know, and brothers was like, well, where you grew up, Leroy, I was trying to tell them, dude, I've been around my folk all my life. I've lived around them. I've taught them as they were children. I taught in the inner cities. Picture me being afraid to walk through a group of young people and just basically saying, excuse me, can I get past? Like I would go anywhere. So my thing was, it's not the young people you're afraid of, but it's the type of life you've been living. You got to examine yourself. If you're afraid of your own folk, you know. But that's my time, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to make that point because somebody, I think it was either Noble or one of the other brothers made that point, how we into this thing where we don't even trust each other. This thing has gotten us so, this institutionalized racism to the point that we can't even work together. We got to get away from that socially engineered way of thinking that, you know, we can't trust or work with each other because ours is the greatest power on this planet. That's why no other group, even though racism has affected them, even though the Native American had to deal with racism, the Japanese and those Jews and you know, this whole wave of Mexican racism and Islamophobia. Okay. Peace out, friends. Even though all these people had to deal with it, nobody's dealt with it like we have. But if you notice, even though we've had the worst of it, we've always come back. We've always come back stronger than ever. That's because we're one of the greatest people that this earth has ever known. And if we can get our act together, if we can get on those new black codes and start supporting each other, supporting our businesses, and dealing with each other on a certain level, we can rise to that greatness again. That's my time, guys. James Brown was in the background. I hope y'all was able to hear him and understand it and say it loud. We're black and we proud. But again, this will be up on Tuesday because my processing is slow. So once I package it and put it up on YouTube, it'll be up by Tuesday. So again, let your friends know, let people know. Let's get those numbers up so that we can get off this platform. We can get the radio station going. We can get the video station going. We can have you guys calling in. There's so many great points were made today. I appreciate everybody's input and participation. Once again, shout out to our brother Ricky. Get on that website and try and join that NFL boycott. All right, I'm out of here. And today, our unsung hero of our culture, I'm going to have to send it out to Kevin Hart for stepping up for the people of Houston and getting other stars to donate some money. Kevin is a great comedian. He's very funny. And we need to support people like him who support our efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, I am out of here. I will see you next week, same time, same bat station. And just please remember, don't get caught up in the lies that they're telling, that you fail to prepare for the reality that's about to come. Peace out. You know I love you all, and I'll see you.